My name is Bob, and I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm an addict. You see, if I get the same applause at the end of this here performance, I feel that I have carried the message. Is any wonder, that I look across the room here, and I was just thinking, how many people I know in this room, and I'm so far away from home, and still I find friends at those far distant places. Some from my part of the country, but from all over the world that I have been able to bond friendships that's unparalleled in my living. Fantastic. And sometimes I try to think of what can I tell you that's different that maybe I have not told you or not talked about or not become in some way try to pass on that might help you in your recovery. Things that perhaps that have helped me in my recovery, because I'm still coming up. I'm still in the process of growing up. I have not reached maturity yet. I'm still working on it. And you probably view within yourself, and when you're looking at yourself, it'll measure from yourself as to how much you've progressed since you've gotten to the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Because I think there are many stages that we go through. And one of the stages I think that we go through is what gets us here. The developing of the character that gets us into rooms like this here, wondering what happened, what am I doing here with a bunch of misfits. Never realizing that you're one of the misfits. And at some point you find that you're part of this whole scheme of things that's going on here. Now, I heard it said at a couple of meetings here earlier, and to show you how much we are alike in so many different ways, we come from some of the same places. I came from one of those families, and I used to use this here as part of the reason I became. And I put myself, the things that we do, put on this list, this kind of invisible list of why I'm going to use drugs forever. Because I'm supposed to fit that category. I'm supposed to be doing those things. I'm supposed to be where I am. So why not go ahead and be at it? Now, to give you kind of perspective, just a light perspective as to where I came from. I grew up doing Prohibition. Now, most of you don't even know anything about no Prohibition. It was the Great Depression. Anybody know about that? You don't know, too many don't know about that either. So you can see I'm kind of, you think this is a different era, so some different things are supposed to be happening. And the only different things that were happening then was just a different time frame. I grew up in a family that had a lot of kids, a one-parent family, grew up on welfare, with no displays of affection emanating from this here source that I thought was very important to become a part of my life, because I was one of these kids who was needy. I want to be touched and talked to and stroked and told that I love you or something, Love was not spoken in my house. The word was a lost word in my house. I can't remember ever, that's a long time, Mom telling me, say, I love you, son. Only time I've ever got that expression out of her was at the end of a letter, love, Mom. That was it. And I used to blame Mom for everything, because I couldn't take blame for it. I always said that if Mom had chose better, done differently, provided for us differently, if the old man had to run off, or maybe she run him off, I don't know what the story was. I had a lot of things going on in my head. So always blaming people, and that was one of the things that it was always you. It was always the fault of the society or the system in which I lived in. I blamed everybody. I had no responsibility in this area. And addicts have a certain survival kit seemingly built in. We learn how to play the games called survival. We learn how to manipulate systems. We learn how to lie. We learn how to cheat and scheme, finagle, con. They seem to become a natural, just almost a natural thing. We learn the survival skills of how to get by. Even in school, I learned the survival skill. Let me find out what the teacher wanted. I knew how to put the necessary show in order to get a grade to enough to get by. Not to excel, to get by. So you're learning how to manipulate the system early. I learned how to lie real early because I thought lie was better to tell the lie and to build it up and make it look good. I take the truth and stretch it and make it a lie because I thought that enhanced it. A little enhanced would make it better. You know. So I'd stretch it. I'd run the truth right out the door, you know. And never understand why people look at you kind of funny like, wow. It sounded good to me. You know. And part of that manipulation is I would practice to lie. Way before I'd start off on a venture or to do something, I would put all the pieces together in case I get caught. This is the story I'm going to tell. And I would tighten up all the loose ends. Well, if they ask this, I'll tell them this. If I ask this, I'll tell them that. And didn't get so confused and probably blow it all out of proportion, you know. And wonder why they look at you kind of weird. Like, what's wrong with him? You know. But I learned how to manipulate the game in terms even at home. It's called one of the things I wanted to get attention from Mom. I found out bleeding was a good method of getting attention from Mom. They don't like you bleeding on things, you know. Or coming in with bones broken, you know, looking weird, acting, you know, talking weird and so forth, making loud noises. And I seemed to have some condition that I could be sick on an instant's notice, you know. Mom would give me some attention when I was sick. She would come and tend to my wounds when I was wounded. So I'm getting these negative methods of how to get some attention early. All else fail, throw a rock, break something. Mom seemed to be right on the spot. And ass whipping was better than no attention at all. That's how Mom used to run things. She whipped everything in shape. And I always seemed to be the one that was always violating her directions. Mom said, do it this way. I had to do it Bob's way. Bob was constantly doing it his way and got Mom's attention often. So she used to try to whip me into shape. To no avail, because I'd go back and get another one the next day anyhow. That didn't help. And I get through, as I say, playing that game in school was part of the same process. What did the teacher want? And I find out how to embellish. I call it the stage of going through school, polishing the apple. You know how you get on the good side of the teacher, polish the apple, clear the eraser, clean the board, be Mr. Johnny on the spot, or can I help you? You know. And they always could see this potential. Addicts got the greatest potential in the world. They just don't use it. But they have a sense of performance. You know, I'm going to let you see this good show right quick. I ain't going to give you no more. Huh? That's just today's. I'm going to let you know how much my potential is going to be, so tomorrow I won't have to show you. Then we try to live off it. It's talking about living off your laurels. You know, I used to paint a beautiful picture as to what I could do. They just said I didn't do it. I was always preoccupied somewhere else most of the time. I was never satisfied where I was in any given time. I always wanted to be somewhere else, doing something else, with somebody else. I didn't make me no different. So I stayed a lot in my head in dreamland or fantasyland. I was always out there. I don't care what was going on in here, how great it was going on in here. I was always out there, you know. I would experience the moment and be looking out there for something better to do, to get into, to get involved. Now, early I found another one of the great escapes. I guess you could find that here in England, too, because they have the weather is of such nature that you're in the house a lot. Huh? One of my first loves, I used to love to read because reading allowed me to escape, to travel, to be who I wanted to be, to become the hero one day and the villain the next. Whoever's having a good time, I became that person. I could get in the covers of pages and disappear. And I found another thing that I was going to get a lot of use out of. I found out what shithouses were for. You could go hide out in them for hours, get you a good book, and nobody bothered you until they had to go and, you know, hey, come on out, I got to get in, you know. And I tell them, don't bother me, I'm not finished yet, you know. And I get caught up in reading, and I get caught up in escaping in the books. I get in the covers of books, and I become invisible. Nobody bothered me. Nothing bothered me. And I could trip out. I could travel in this here great fantasy, this great world that we had to look at. So I was doing a lot of that. But you learn things in this here reading. In the process of reading, you learn something even sometime when you don't want to. You get little bits of information. I had a remarkable mind of trivia. I had a lot of little bits and pieces of little things that I could throw out at you like I was the wisest person in the world. Ask me a question, I'll tell you something, Or even I would even instigate a controversy because I done read up on it. And if you haven't read up on it, you're in deep trouble. Because I'm going to dazzle you with my brilliance. I don't care what kind of question you propose to me, I had an answer. Especially if you asked me a question and didn't know anything about it. I have an answer for you. Right now, I got into a lot of trouble by having that ready answer. And I always thought I was doing brilliantly in the process of me being so responsive. Now, I was a bad kid growing up. Fact is, I think we have two personalities that we show. I have a personality that I do before the crowd of authority. Then I have this other personality that I have for my peer group, my buddies. So you try to prove something to both. I want to be a nice guy over here so I can get the pat on the head. Then I want to be the bad guy over here because it seems to get some status. It's called I dare you to do that. I'm going to do it. Then over here when you get back to the neighborhood where moms and the neighbors are watching, you're a good little kid. You put your shirt on right, put your shirt in your pants, turn your hat around straight, and you walk out and like whistle like you're a nice kid. But you get around that other corner, the hat turned around backward, shirt tail comes out, you get a drag in your leg, and you start talking out the corner of your mouth. It seemed the thing to do when I was growing up. Because we seem to have that magical line that we cross that all of us done the same thing. We be headed for school, and as long as we was in the neighborhood, we turn that corner, shirt tails come out automatically, people produce cigarettes from somewhere, and we step off in the alley and run in through people and run a little havoc, and then we get back toward home and little soldiers, nice guys. So we were practicing this person that was going to be the character that didn't know how he was supposed to feel even. Because on many occasions, in my family, we didn't talk about what we felt. We didn't discuss how we felt. It was a non-subject of how you feel. You were told how to feel. Aren't you happy? I give you a new thing, you're supposed to be happy. Somebody died, aren't you sad? I didn't feel what they always told me I was supposed to be feeling. I felt what I felt. And I could not alter my feeling and become, that robot saying, you're supposed to be happy, you're supposed to be sad because this is what's happening. I was feeling what I was feeling. And I had nobody to talk to about these feelings. I had a lot of misplaced feelings. I had nobody to express these things with. Brothers, sisters, didn't make any difference. Mom, she wasn't listening. Mom didn't have time. So I had nobody to talk. I shut down real early. I didn't talk about what was going on. It was a non-subject as far as you was concerned. Teachers usually very often were concerned about the condition because they would see it reflected in what happened in school. I would be daydreaming. I'd be off on trips. And they just couldn't understand why Bob couldn't measure up to that potential that they knew about. They seemed to always know about that potential. And I hadn't even seen drugs yet. During the period of time, they didn't talk about drugs. I grew up during the 30s and 40s, and they didn't talk about drugs. Drugs was a non-subject. It was not talked about, was not discussed. Not even in school. They passed over it so fast, it was really pathetic, I think the only thing they ever said anything about Reefer Madness. They had one film in the world called Reefer Madness. I think everybody in the world that went to school seen Reefer Madness. That was it. And that was our whole education as far as drugs was concerned. So I knew nothing about what drugs were about. Cared little about it. My role models were the fellow standing on the corner. They looked like they had it going on. They're the only ones out in my neighborhood looked like they had it going on. They stood under the bright lights and tee-hee and ha-ha, you know, had a pocket full of money and a couple of old ladies sitting over there in the car, and they punch a sucker in the mouth, and they seemed to be having fun. And I always wanted to have fun. So they became my role models. I wanted to know what they were doing. I wanted to slide up to them and find out what's going on. You know. Because it looked good to me. The flash and the glitter and all that stuff looked good. And as far as drugs was concerned, it was still a non-subject. There was a lot of drinking going on. That was part of what was happening at the time. Prohibition was over repealed, and they had whiskey flow like water, and saying everybody was going doing their thing. You know, there was a lot of laughing and ha-ha and standing under that bright light. And they seemed the only one in my neighborhood that was having fun. The ones in my neighborhood, most of the families in my neighborhood only had one parent. The ones that had two parents, they weren't doing much better than the ones that had the single parent. So it didn't make much difference. And I thought that was part of my conditioning as to why I had an attitude such as I had, because of I didn't have anything. You know, on welfare. Change of clothes became once a year or twice a year when holidays came. When one of them checks came through so you could get some more clothes. Well, cardboard in the shoes part of the year, huh? Or no shoes at all, whatever the case may be. So I thought that was a matter of condition. In order way to get over it, you had to do something different. My first addiction, stealing. I used to love to steal people's shit. Huh? It made me feel good. Huh? I used to love to steal people's shit. Yeah. I had a bunch of your things. I could share with my partners. We had it all. And so I got hooked on stealing. I would steal stuff I didn't need. Had no use for. Best I could do is give it away. I had no fences to give it to, so that's all I do. It was a lot of insignificant bullshit that I used to steal. You know, of no use. It looked good. It shined. It glittered. It talked. Whatever it done, you know. I'd steal it. Because it made me feel good. It made me feel like I was one step above or just ahead of you, or I was slick. Getting slick now, baby. You know, sliding around, real sliding, you know, like get that little dip in the leg, getting a little more heavier, huh? Getting a little heavier, huh? Because that's what the fellows on the corners, they seen what they were doing, huh? They seen that a hell of a dip in their leg, you know. Shit, I said, I was trying to follow them. It was the same thing, I say, got through school through this here thing of getting over, just giving enough to get by, just enough to get by. And it didn't mean I was a dumb kid, I just could not apply. Because I was out to lunch most of the time. I was off on some dream trip somewhere else, not being where I was at any given time. And you get to the place where you say you start maturing or start growing up, and all those, the hormones starts to raise up in you, you know, and you start doing another leg drag thing and sliding up to girls, and if that's what your choice is, and getting close to them, and the feelings get to, you know, you don't know what to do with them, huh? You guys know what I'm talking about, you know. Girls do it too, because I've seen y'all do it too. See? But what happens there is that we think that we are grown. At some point, we think that we had arrived at maturity, had arrived at adulthood, and that's it. We're supposed to do what we want to now. Not do what we were told to do, but do what we want to do. And then, you know, we go off, mom tells us to do something, and we're going to do what we want to do. And it's continuation of doing what you want to do. And if you're getting away with it, that's another mark on the calendar that got it down. I know what I'm doing. Not knowing anything about growing up, maturing, and taking care of business, being responsible, not knowing anything about those particular facets of living, and nobody to tell me or teach me about them. No examples of those things happening. very difficult for a kid to grow up and not have those things. So wanting so desperately to have the closeness of another human being to stroke and to feel that he's being nurtured, or felt the feelings that goes with that. As I told you, I was always on a trip. I was always not satisfied where I wanted to be, and I was always running away in my head, whether I was running away physically or not. I was always running away because I was uncomfortable where I was, and I always wanted to be over there somewhere else. First occasion I got a chance to do this here is World War II come about. I know you know about that. People in England know about that. Huh? Some of you don't, because y'all weren't born until after that. You know. But your parents talked about it. And they drafted the boys out there in the street, was out there playing in the street, they used to draft them, you know, take them on down to the war camp. So I went down and volunteered, because all my brothers and all of them had got drafted. So I went down and volunteered, because I was not satisfied where I was. And I hadn't got into drugs yet. But I'm developing the character of the drug addict early. The person is to become that addict. And my first venture going off to the war camp was, they said, let's go have a good time. And the first thing that clicked on in mind, let's put it together, let's get it together, let's do it. Do what? They said, let's go get something and get so we can have a good time. And we started collecting our money, and somebody go out and, first they go out and get the jug, then they go out and get a stick of weed, and then there are greater vistas to be explored. And I had read about drug addiction in far-off lands, not here in the United States. They talked about opium dens over there in the Far East somewhere. Sounded good to me, you know. Huh? They didn't say nothing about the results of using anything. You just talked about what happened inside of those particular confines of those places. Things were happening, you know. They talked about euphoria. They talked about the dreams. They talked about fantastic, you know, and it just seemed so intriguing. Oh, wow, you know. I stored a lot of that information away. I want some of that. I want to get me some of that. I'm going to do some of that. The war ended. Now, I didn't leave the service. I had a choice of where I wanted to go then. Where you want to go, to Europe or the Far East? I wanted to go to the Far East. I didn't want to see no London bridges, no Big Ben. I didn't want to see Paris. I wanted to go find one in places. Sounded good to me. So when I got to Japan, I went to hunt. It seems as though that we are kind of predestined to look for things that we're not supposed to be in. All the places that they had off limits or don't go were on my list, a strike list. They didn't want us to check that out for some reason. Somebody must be having a good time over there. Because I've seen people going in and out of those places all day and all night long. So, you know, addicts like myself are very curious. We're going to check it out. And we go check and find out what's happening in these here places, you know. And you get a little taste of something, you know, you try something out. Because I ran with a bunch of dudes who said part of the thing is we try anything once. Part of our philosophy for living. Tomorrow we may die. So we just as well live today. Try anything once, and that you enjoy, do it over again. And we found something that we used over and over and over and over again, not knowing the consequences of that action. Because I used heroin for a whole year and didn't know what hook was. But I know it done something to me. It done something for me. It removes the feelings and allowed me to exist in a world that I felt very hostile and foreign in. It allowed me a facility to escape, that these feelings didn't come up. If I had a feeling come up, I know what to do with it. I'd fix it. Feeling come up, fix it. I found drugs was kind of the panacea of taking care of all my problems. Fear disappeared, you know. My inadequacy disappeared. I didn't have to measure up to anything. I found out that I could just lay back and nod off into a deep nod, and everything disappeared. Made life okay. And I ended up hooked and didn't know what hooked was. But you know, there's some smarty around always that got the word, man, you hooked. And what is that? I say, well, we've been using all year long, man. It's in. Yeah. And what do you do about that? We got to find something to get well. Very valuable lesson I learned at that point. Don't get too far from the connection. Well, you realize I was in the military, and they put you on a thing called orders and ship you, and don't ask you permission. And they don't take connection with you. Okay? So you end up somewhere sick as a dog and not knowing what this thing called sick is. And you don't know what to do about it, but you learn fast. Now, we're quick studies. We'll find something fast. We find all the substitutes that are available in order to get over until you get back to whatever your favorite thing is. Because I found morphine was a good substitute for heroin. Huh? And I found out the pharmacy had a whole lot of goodies in it that were good substitutes for heroin. And so I had no problem about finding what these substitutes were. And I told you I was a thief already. The military had a lot of stuff to steal. Huh? And we were in business. Huh? So they were my supply sergeant, they were my treasury, they was my everything, you know. They took care of business for a lot of years. And I used to think I was used to function quite well, because I could be very efficient when I'm not feeling anything. If I have a set of instructions of what to do, I can follow those set of instructions. It's just when I'm left to my own devices and my own decision making and my own qualifications as to what I can do and how I do it and the rationale that I use that I'm in trouble. But as long as you're telling me this is how you're done, I can do that. I can push pegs and pull levers, you know, and switches and shit, you know, and get it over with. It's just that I'm not by my own device. I have none of this here, the qualifications to meet what I need to meet. So I escaped. I got by for a lot of years. And I thought I didn't have a problem with this thing called addiction. Even when people was telling me that, boy, you got to cut this shit out, you know, getting bad, man, you know. As long as I can show up on the mark, hey, screw it, you know, I'm okay. Because once again, somebody's seen that potential. Huh? Live off your laurels of your potential, right? I was a good soldier. I polished brass like a mother. Shit. I stood tall. I was honor guard, soldier of the year. So when my ass was in a bind, I'd throw that on him, you know. Hey, he's a good soldier. Shit. And you get by, and you get by, and you get by, and you get by. But they told me nothing about the progression of the disease either. See, this is a progression of disease that nobody knew the fact is, they knew very little about drug addiction. It was a non-subject, as I told you before. Not that they hadn't had drug problems before, but nobody left us a legacy as to how to recover. They had addicts that had recovered before us, but they never know how to. They never know design for recovery. So here come a person along that has a problem for recovery and no place to go. Very little understanding as is the nature of our disease called addiction, because nobody recorded it through history. This is not the first occasion we've had a problem with drugs, folks. There has been nations almost lost by drug proliferation in the society which was existing at the time. They've had drug problems before, but nobody left a legacy as how to recover. So I spent almost 10 and a half years in the service before my disease caught up with me, because it will come to the place where everybody know you got a problem. I don't care how much you want to say, I ain't got no problem. Somebody going to pull you to the curb and do what's necessary for your problem. And what they did for me was lock me up. And in the process, they threw me out, give me some time, and threw me out of the service. Now, they done a crueler thing when they done that. They let me out of jail. Now here's a kid that's, hey, I'm unprepared for this here adventure they're about to put me on, called life. I knew nothing about life. I had not taken care of me. You have to realize I went from mama, I went to military mama, I went to penitentiary mama. Now they put me on the street, no mama. I'm in trouble. But we become very creative. We find a mama. We say, oh! Yeah. There's a lot of mothers out there. A lot of daddies too. You girls know. They're looking for children to take care of. Huh? And you learn how to sort through them too. Huh? You find out that the one that's using is not going to work out too swell. Huh? Because she's going to jail when you're in jail or out of jail. She can't write letters. She can't put money on the books. She can't do all them things, you know. Huh? So we shop very carefully. If we don't have a maternal mother to go back to, we'll find any mother do. Any mother do that's going to go for your game. And so you go through mothers looking for mama. And you find some. Because there's some out there, you know, that just want to help you get your shit together. Just cannot stand you being in a position or the condition you're in. And they're going to help you get yourself together. Now, how I got to Narcotics Anonymous by a procession of this year. I had ran through enough mothers at this particular time, and I knew I needed one up tight. Eh? And the story that I told her, or the story she told me, whatever the case you want to go agree with, we had a little liaison going, you know, that you helped me and she was going to help me get my shit together and all this good stuff. Standing in jail, needing a lawyer, needing some bail, needing some place to go to when you get out, somebody to write you, somebody to come visit you, somebody to put the money on the books. The proposition she laid out to me was, in order for me to continue this here, we got to get married. Now, I don't know why she thought this paper was going to take care of business, you know. But you know what I did? I said, I do. No problem. Especially you ain't got nothing to lose anyhow. Because you ain't got nothing. We talking about down to the bare essentials now, you know. Room and board. So somebody write you a letter occasionally and put a couple of dollars on the book. And have a place to go to when you get out of one of them places. Who could ask for more? Huh? So as she went down and paid the bail, I like to run the lady crazy for the next 2 years. Like to run her stark amazing crazy. You know. See, she wasn't at it. Her addiction was trying to fix people. And she was going to fix me, and she couldn't fix me, you know. But I go to get a loaf of bread, and 6 months later I call her from distant places. Tell them about them messing with me again. And people that don't have our problem, one of the things that they'll do, they'll go get some help. Eh? They'll stretch it out as far as they can and say, no, I got to go get some help. You know. And in the process of her going to get some help, somebody steered her into a bunch of other old biddies. First thing they told her to put the sucker out. And you know we play that game well. You know we play that game well. We can get on a bended knee, baby, and bring a tear to, you know, to a crocodile. Yeah. So we beg out a number of times, you know. And it came down to proposition time one more time. She said, you got to get some help for yourself. And somebody slid up to her and told her about something called Narcotics Anonymous. Now, with one meeting in the world, she goes out and finds it. Huh? I sent her out to check the meeting out. You know how we are. We don't want to take no chance. And you have to realize the sign of the times. 1959, addicts were persona non grata. In all circles, recovery or otherwise. The social attitude was nil. They said, shoot them if they could get rid of them. They had no tolerance for addicts whatsoever. So you can imagine when you're talking about into a new venture or talking about recovery of any type, you got to send somebody out to check it out, see what's going on. So she was sent out to this foreign country somewhere. It was just out of the neighborhood, but I told you I didn't get out of the neighborhood. Huh? I'm not jabbing. I moved to Central Los Angeles, and I did not know all the communities around Central Los Angeles. They got a lot of little cities around Central Los Angeles. I could care less. You know? Talking about Studio City, North Hollywood. I didn't know nothing about them suckers, you know. And I'd been around there 2 or 3 years, and I'd never heard of them. So I had to send her out there to go check this sucker out, you know. She brought me back the message. There are some people out there, they're sitting around this table here, and they're talking about their problem with drugs, and they're trying to help one another. Okay. I'll go out there and grace them with my presence and give them an education about drug addiction and all the ramifications of drugs is used around the world. Because by this time I had traveled around the world and I used drugs everywhere I went. I had no problems about getting drugs. I went around the world a couple of times, and any place I went, I knew where to get drugs. I had no problems. I knew what to look for. I knew what dips to make, what gestures to come up with, knew to have some money or trading to barter with, knew how to get some. So I had no problem there. So I went out to this meeting, and they were out there sitting around the table, asking people, well, who got a problem? Bob would come in the meeting with a problem. I wanted them to fix me. I wanted them to take care of all the problems that I came in with. I didn't have no license. I needed a job. I didn't have no money. My old lady was aggravating me. The parole officer was after me. Well, on and on and on and on, you know. And that's all they do is say, keep coming back, Bob. So I said, I'll show him. Shit. I come to meeting loaded. See, my problem was alcohol, right? So I'd get me a short dog. For those who don't know what a short dog is, that's a half pint. Huh? And I knocked off about half of it before I go to the meeting, so I could get loose. Mouth go off like... Bob take up the whole meeting. Who got a problem? Bob got a problem. Who want to read? Bob wanted to read. See, Bob knew how to read. He knew how to pronounce these words and things. Not that I understood what I was reading, but I could read. I could pronounce the words. I knew where the periods and commas were, you know. And I could do it a little finesse even, like I was an orator or something, you know. Use your stone out of my head. And so this went on for a couple of years, you know. This year I'd come to Narcotics Anonymous, and they would write me letters, want to know if they want me to pick you up when you get out. Nope. Got some business to take care of. Addicts got more business to take care of. Be locked up 4 or 5 years and got business to take care of. You know. Be going to jail and be talking about the business you got to take. Well, I need 4 more days to take care of some business. You know. More business, you know. My business usually was, when I got out, is to go to old places, to look for old friends, talk about old things, and have a taste for old time's sake. Huh? That was usually the way I done it, you know, just a little taste. At no given time have I ever set out to say that I'm going out and get hooked. But every time, without exception, that I went out and took that little taste for old time's sake, I got hooked. And I was going back to jail. Because that's the only thing that usually nailed me down, was going back to jail. They didn't have all these treatment centers. As I told you, addicts was a place not welcome anywhere. But something happened when you walk through the wrong rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. There's a few things that happen. They start reading that thing called Steps. And it's prefaced by how it works. Problem is, you walk into Narcotics Anonymous and you hear the curse of 12 steps, you're in deep shit. Huh? You have been given the formula for living, and now it is your responsibility to do something about it. Whew! Bad choice there for responsibility. Huh? But the responsibility is yours. And once you become equipped with that information, if you be an addict, there's no such thing as stepping back and say you're going to be a user, crossing the line of addiction. There is no stepping back saying I'm going to adjust it up and just be a user. Most of us not here just for an exercise of just because you was a user. But I know a lot of places you could be on a Saturday night beside here and listen to me if you were just a user. Huh? And what the steps do, it unarms you in terms of having that old thing that we usually tell ourselves, I don't know. Because I used to use that very effectively. When I didn't want to understand something, wanted to do something, I'd tell you, I don't know. I'd dummy up on you quick. You know, called no responsibility whatsoever. I don't know. I mean, I ain't going to do nothing. You know. But what happened was, they gave you the steps. There was a little pamphlet at that time, 1959, in the early 60s. They had a little pamphlet that had 8 pages in it. 2 of those pages was taken up by 20 questions. All else it had in it was the steps and the traditions and just what it did. That's it. And that's all the tools you need. Really? If you can follow directions. Because it says, they remember the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I know we sharp. Okay? We don't go for that. Because some of those steps don't apply to us. Yeah? You don't understand. Definitely those steps said something about God and spirituality. Cancel that one right quick. Don't even read that one. Cross. Yeah. Because it don't apply to me. Because I'd hooked God and spirituality up with religion right off the bat. I had neither. No God, no religion, no understanding, no consciousness, and none of that stuff, you know. I'd shit-canned that a long time ago. And I had studied all the religions of the world because I told you I used to like to read, so I do comparative studies of all the religions, you know, and the sources of them, and from whence it came, and all this other stuff. I could get in great dialogue about religion and spirituality and gods and who your God and my God and your God. I'd shoot them all down. Then people used to come to the door and, you know, knock on your door and want to talk about, come on in. We have great sessions about this shit, you know. I have them going out scratching their head by the time they get ready to leave. Man, what did I do to him? Because that's what we do, you know. We do these things, you know. We manipulate words. We manipulate what you believe or what you think you believe, and we have you so confused, you know. Like, you know, what did I do, you know? But one of the things that happens here, when you become ready and become teachable, we become receptive to this idea that I got a problem. And this problem is mine, not yours. The problem is mine. I must do something about it. Society have, in their wisdom, have tried over and over again to do something about this problem called addiction. Each individual must do something about the problem called addiction. And I have the tools in order to do that. But I must use those tools, and I must apply them to myself. I would rather you do it for me. I would rather you take the steps and apply them liberally to me and make me okay. I've tried that one too. It don't work. I'd rather for you to fix me than me to work on me. But first we must understand what the steps are talking about. I had read the steps along many times, on many occasions, and didn't know what they were saying. I had problems getting by the first step, the very first step. I had problems with one word called addiction. I knew nothing about addiction. So you see, I was in trouble right off the bat. Now, how can I proceed any further until I understand what the first step says? I used to think it said I was a dope fiend. I admitted I was a dope fiend. So that's the way we used to come in and present ourselves at one time. I'm a dope fiend. Yeah. Hope to die, stomp down dope fiend. So what? So it got on to the place of understanding what part of that step said, something about what addiction's about. I read the word and didn't have no understanding what addiction was about. It's a whole complete composite of who I am is what addiction's about. It's not just one little piece of me. It's all of me. The whole of me. My whole concept of understanding, my whole idea of my actions, all of me is what the addiction's about. Now the task becomes larger. And me and I got to change all of me in the process. And it's not an easy task. But it's not as difficult as we may admit. The biggest thing we got to get by is this. This is the biggest thing we got to get by. The resistance to, no. Huh? We're like children. We're like children. You know how we do want to give medicine to the children and they say, no, Mom, I don't want it. It's going to make you better. No, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. We're the same way. It's going to make you better. You're going to feel good. I don't want it. Isn't that ridiculous? But that's the nature of of the addict. I don't want to do that. What do you mean it's going to make me feel good? You know, I don't want to feel nothing. And that's part of our dilemma. We're always trying to not feel anything. We're not trying to experience these feelings. Because once the drug was removed, we got to feel these feelings. And these feelings are strange. You're talking about strange, baby, you know. If I've ever felt those feelings, it seemed to be intensified because I've been dismissed from them or been away from them so long that all of a sudden everything irritates me. No wonder I used drugs. I couldn't deal with the feelings. And I got clean. And I got to looking at this thing called addiction, and I still didn't know nothing about these feelings. They talk about the surrender. I mean, surrender entirely to become teachable, to be receptive to new ideas, which is a great surrender for addicts, because we're people that like to resist things. Change. Oh, no, please. Change, no, please. We start experiencing living. We start experiencing our feelings. We start experiencing. And they're not all bad feelings. We talk about, you get some good feelings. And I say, wow, whoo, shit, I want some more of that, you know. And we get obsessed in that area too. We understand the true nature of this disease called addiction, the obsessive and compulsive nature of addiction. We find out our problem is not drugs. The problem is me. The problem is you. The problem is you, not the drugs. That's how I survived. It was my survival package for a lot of years. Then it stopped working. There was not enough drugs to get my head on my chest long enough to make the world disappear and make everything okay. And so I got to deal with living with all these feelings. And we become practiced in the idea of that we can do it with all these feelings. We help each other over these humps. We find we survive those feelings. They're not going to kill us. Sometimes we wish we would die, but they're not going to kill you. We come to understand the true nature of our disease, the obsessive compulsion of our disease, or our dis-ease, which is all encompassed in how we grew up. That we have to do something, altering our feelings and our thinking and our action and the things, the way we do things. And we do it together. Alone, we in deep shit. Because we have no examples. Because you're a mirror of me and I'm a mirror of you. Much of what the disease is about, I can see in you as we grow. And you can see in me as to what's happening with me. I had great difficulty with the steps because, as I said, many of them did not apply, and I thought that that step didn't apply to me because it talked about this, and this didn't apply because it talked about that. I was clean 4 years and had to experience what God was about. I gave it great lip service. Okay, there's God. Okay. I had no God experience. We must have some God experience, some way that we can understand what this experience is about. We talk about the spiritual experience of things happening. It's something in the relationship, me to you and you to me. Something that you feel rather than touch. But it's real. The realism of it, of experiencing those feelings, to experiencing God working in your behalf. Wow. Then if you learn how to pray and find out prayer works, we get to praying like mad. Because one of the things I found out after I've had some God experience, I found out prayer worked. I got the banging then, baby. Shit. I had a long list of things I wanted. Yeah. I started writing more things on that list. Want list. Want 2 of those and 5 of the others, you know. Shit, give me that one too, shit. Prayer works, folks. Watch what you pray for. You'll get it, and you might have to have a prayer to have it taken away. Because on many occasions, the things I prayed for, I was not supposed to have. I was not capable of maintaining or taking care of. And it wasn't supposed to be for me. But I prayed for it. And God, in His infinite wisdom, gave it to me and said, okay, sucker, here, take it. See what you can do with it. Right? And after you've had great struggles and you say, oh, please, 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 please. My great prayer today is help. Because sometime, even today, I want to beg. I want to pray. I want to pray for one of those and 2 of the others. You know? My want list is, I don't have one particular. Your will for me is good enough. Because we started, hopefully, feeling good about your living. You start feeling good about who you are. And I think we come here to learn how to experience living on its terms. To experience living and enjoying living becomes very important. Because if you just come here for exercise or futility, you're wasting your time. I've learned how to enjoy my living, to experience my living today. I experience living today. When I go somewhere, it don't have to be no person, place, or thing there. I can experience being there. All the places I went, I did not experience. I used to go in places around the world, and I did not experience being there. And subsequently, going back there after being clean and experiencing being there. And feeling good, and being able to enjoy, say, the air, the flowers, the scenery, whatever that particular place or thing has to offer. I begin to feel. I became a human being. And I think that's one of the things we have to experience here is becoming human. And that we have, part of being human is making mistakes. I need not be perfect, and I can't expect perfection out of you either. We become very demanding once we find things at work. We want to demand on you our perfection. Sorry, we're in the wrong place if you're looking for perfection here. Best thing we can do is be human and do the best we can know how to do and don't use. See, these steps work for betterment of living, to learn to teach you how to enjoy your living. That's what it's about. To learn how to enjoy your living. That's all I've ever wanted anyhow. In my most desperate moment when I was a little kid, I just wanted to be somewhat enjoying what was going on. And I had to come to Narcotics Anonymous with a bunch of addicts to learn what enjoyment of living is all about. And very often I'm just like a little kid. I just don't know when it came out of the rain. Shit, I just get out to playing, you know. But we learn together. We have some directions to follow. And part of the directions is talking about doing 12 steps of recovery. And we must do some parts of that recovery on a regular basis. The maintenance of that is very important. One of the curses I think of people with the time is complacency. We think that we got our shit together. We're in deep shit. We find we must continue to maintain this called cleanliness by the process of doing some things that work. To learn how to enjoy your living by the process of doing something on a regular basis. I can only, I just stand up here and get into many areas of what I've learned from my addiction. And much of I've learned from my addiction, I've learned from you. Collectively in this room, there is much information that you can discern and impart to me. And in the process, I grow richer in the process. This is a growing experience that we're having, even tonight. Because we learn how to help one another and learn how to appreciate one another. There's one other thing I've come to understand just within the last couple of years. Now, I've been clean over 32 years. But one of the things that I've learned, Thank you. They weren't always telling me to keep coming back. Stay away, Bob. But I think I've had some clean experiences, and I'm still learning the nature of our disease. I'm still learning the nature of our disease. My disease is the same disease that you have, because I see you and me, and me and you. We have an exchange that goes on, that I'm able to observe the nature of this disease called addiction. We think different, we act different in most of the things that we do. We're living in a real world that demands certain things that we must do. Addicts have a difficulty in making that transition of doing things like the world do things. We seem to have been wired in reverse. I call it wired in reverse. They used to have cars that used to be negative ground and positive ground, right? They put them all negative ground now because they're using a certain type of dynamics that goes with that. Addicts refuse to do that. They are still positive ground. They think that way. They perform that way. And sometimes they say it's not that it's bad, it's just we have conflict in dealing with the world around us. But collectively, we can get to the place we need to get by understanding the nature of our disease and what we must do. It's called practicing the steps in all of your affairs, learning how to develop principles that are universal. It applies to me, you, and those people out there. Remember, you don't run nothing anyhow. We had a wake-up call in California. I guess we must have been asleep or something. We were, most of us. 4/31/17. One fellow in here had his first experience of what earthquakes is about. He's from way across here in Europe somewhere. And something kicked him out of the bed. What is that? Got your attention now, haven't we? Just to let you know, you're here every once in a while that we don't run nothing. That runs it all lets you know that you still don't run nothing. by whatever means, you don't run nothing. So if that be the case, why not turn it over to that who runs it? He seems to be does such a much better job than I can do. That's all I have to do is be directed in a certain direction along a certain path and not clouded by using anything. Because once I use something, it's all over with. The learning stops. The learning stops. So I would suggest to anyone here that have not tried the 12 steps of recovery of Narcotics Anonymous that they do at least one time before they dismiss it don't work for me, to apply the steps in its entirety, in its continuity, at least one time, and find out what happens for you. Because that's the only way you ever know as to whether this program works or not, is you have to do it yourself. I would suggest and imply for anyone here that having difficulty to apply the steps and see what happens for them. And I'm most assuredly the only reason I stayed around here is that I was started enjoying living, is the reason I stayed, to continue to enjoy living. And I want to thank all of you for being so gracious and inviting me here. And stay around so I get to know every one of you. Thank you.